Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now a new signal is flashing on the Bitcoin chart that we need to pay attention to while the price is now running into critical short-term support, alongside Ethereum also running into critical short-term support, while Solana is now potentially repeating history. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF news today, and on Tuesday we saw another net inflow, but it was only around $40 million, which is actually not as much as what we usually see when we see net inflows. But with that being said, it's better than what we saw on Monday, which was a net outflow. So once again, net inflows are good news and net outflows are bad news. And if we're looking at the breakdown, we can once again see some decent inflows from BlackRock and Fidelity, with another decent outflow from Grayscale of around $81 to $82 million. And on Tuesday, this was the first time ever where Grayscale was not the largest outflow for that day. We actually saw a larger outflow come out of the ARK Bitcoin ETF of around $87.5 million US. And so once again, this is the first time ever where Grayscale has not been the largest outflow on that day. So this is potentially some good news, seeing some slightly smaller outflows from Grayscale. But with that being said, there's still a decent amount of Bitcoin sitting in the Grayscale Bitcoin trust, so these outflows can continue for a little while, but once again, ultimately they will run out of Bitcoin if their outflows continue at some point. Whereas on the other hand, when we're talking about inflows, US dollars coming into the Bitcoin ETFs, we're not exactly running out of US dollars anytime soon, because there's trillions upon trillions of US dollars out there. And of course, the supply cap of US dollars is infinite. There's no hard cap on US dollars. But with that being said, getting into the Bitcoin charts today, this is on the weekly time frame, and honestly, not much has changed here on the weekly time frame over the last one day. So if you're new to the channel and you want to know more about this chart right here, then check out my last video here on the channel to find out more. And the same can be said about the 3-day Bitcoin chart. Once again, as of right now, we're still within this larger bullish trend that I've been talking about for a long time now on the channel. And during this larger bullish trend, we can see short-term pullbacks here and there. That's very normal to see. And of course, that latest pullback that we saw only a couple of weeks ago, from the all-time high down to the local low from around $74,000 down to around $60,000, that was roughly around an 18% pullback. And once again, that's on par with what we've seen time and time again throughout this bull market. So just because we see short-term pullbacks and short-term bearish price action, once again, those can potentially be short-term buying opportunities if we're still within a larger bullish trend. And what's very interesting right now, the DXY is actually pulling back to the downside, which is a new signal flashing on the chart that we need to pay attention to. Because obviously over the last few weeks, the DXY has actually been spiking to the upside, which, as I've mentioned recently on the channel, if the DXY is spiking to the upside, we should not really be expecting a lot of bullish momentum here in the price of Bitcoin. And we can see time and time again, this is a very accurate signal. Of course, not 100% accurate, but most of the time when the DXY is bullish, it's going to be very difficult to see significant bullish price action in the price of Bitcoin. Because usually when Bitcoin is most bullish, that is happening at the same time as when the DXY is dropping to the downside. But once again, what we are seeing right now, just over the last one day, is indeed a drop to the downside again in the DXY, which is potentially good news, especially if this continues. If we continue to see a further pullback in the DXY, once again, that will be a bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto. And so I'll make sure to keep you up to date on what's happening here in the DXY in these videos. So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, right now the price is running into critical short-term support, sitting in between around 65,000 to 66,000. And so of course right now and over the last one day, we are finding support around this area, with the price struggling to go to the downside, which is exactly what support is, basically the price running into a lot of buyers. But ultimately, if the buyers actually run out in this zone and the selling pressure becomes too strong, basically if we confirm a break below $65,000 with candle closes well below that level, then in that case we could likely see a drop down towards around 62,000. But once again, at least for now, we have not yet broken this support at 65 to 66,000. And so if we actually bounce from this area, then the next resistance would be sitting in between 68 to 69,000. And above that, we have this level of resistance, which is important resistance, sitting at around 71,500. And also looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI, this is bouncing to the upside from those oversold territories, which is something that I talked about in my last video. Once again, I said yesterday that we're most likely going to see at least a slight bounce here just over the next one day due to the RSI being in oversold territories. Because usually when the RSI is entering into oversold territories, it's telling us that we're kind of hitting our downside limit, at least in the short term, and we do to see a little bit of a short-term relief at the very least. But as we can see back here, this signal by itself is not necessarily enough to fully confirm that the bottom is definitely in, because once again, what we saw back here was a bounce from those oversold territories in the price of Bitcoin, which helped to reset the RSI further to the upside, which gave us more room to the downside later on. And so that's just something that we need to consider. Once again, we could just be resetting the RSI temporarily here, giving us more room to the downside later on for a possible break to the downside. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but that is a possibility that we need to consider. And now, if we actually see a break to the downside and head down towards around 61 to 62,000, once again, I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but if it happens, personally in that situation, I will be entering a massive long position around this area of support. And so once again, as of right now, I'm not currently in a trade at the moment. I did long the price of Bitcoin back here, closed some of that trade right here, and closed the rest of the trade right around here. And so as of right now, I've just taken my profits and I'm not currently in any trade at the moment because we have no clear trading setup, at least for now. But if we start to flip more bullish again by seeing a major breakout above some important resistance, that could be a potential trading signal. Or if we actually pull back further down to a lower level, then personally, once again, down to those lower prices, I'll start scaling into a major long position once again, as I did right back here. And now, of course, we can also look for short positions here and there, like this break to the downside. That was a decent short position trade right there over the last couple of days. But personally, I'm looking for more long positions rather than short positions, considering the fact that we are still within a larger bullish market. So holding a long position for longer can obviously perform a lot better during a larger bullish market. Whereas holding a short position can obviously, you can do all right with a short position in the short term, but it's very limited with what you can do in a short position during a bullish market. But either way, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, not just Bitcoin, personally, I take trades just like that over on Bybit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to Bybit to make an account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also leave a link to Bitflex down below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can enter an exclusive Apple Watch giveaway just by trading crypto on Bitflex. And by the way, this will be ending somewhat soon. And you can find all of the details about this on this page, once again, linked down below this video. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check out those links down below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses. And now that I've talked about short-term support and resistance levels to look out for, looking at some liquidation levels on the liquidation heat map, we do have some decent liquidity at around 67,000 and also some liquidity to the downside at around 64.4k. And so in the immediate short term, those are the levels to watch out for to the upside or to the downside. And of course, we still have a lot of liquidity further to the upside at around $70,000 and 72,000, where there's a lot of liquidity. And so once again, as I've said recently on the channel, once we finally cross above 72,000, at that point, there will be a lot of liquidations, a lot of short positions getting liquidated once we finally cross above 72,000. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, we're still trading slightly below this critical area on the chart, sitting in between 3.4k to 3.5k. And as I've also said recently on the channel, if we confirm a break below 3.4k with a weekly candle close below that level, then we could potentially see a drop down towards around 2.9k as the next significant support. But even in that situation, even if we do see a further pullback in the short term, that does not necessarily end the larger bullish trend, because obviously during a larger bullish trend, also known as a bull market, we can see some decent corrections from time to time before continuing the trend higher later on. And so if you're new to all of this, that is something important to understand. Once again, during a larger bullish trend, we can see short-term pullbacks from time to time, just like how during a bear market, we can see short-term bullish moves here and there during a bearish market. And with that being said, zooming into the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, and right now, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is bouncing from critical short-term support, which was sitting in between around 3.2k to 3250. And as I said in my last video, at the same time as the price bouncing from this support, we're also running into oversold territories here in the RSI on the 4-hour time frame. So like I said yesterday, it's extremely likely that we're going to see a slight relief from all of this bearish price action, at least in the imminent short term, which is exactly playing out as expected. But like I said earlier, this could all just be to reset the RSI back to the upside, giving us more room to the downside later on. So just keep that in mind. And so in order to flip much more bullish again in the short term, we ideally need to confirm other bullish signals, like for example, reclaiming previous support, which is now resistance. And so for example, if we start breaking out above these levels on the chart, which are currently acting as resistance, that should be bullish for the price, signaling much more bullish price action and momentum. And these levels are sitting in between around 3470 to 3530, and this resistance is sitting at around 3650. But overall, once again, we're currently within a correction phase during a larger bullish market, so just keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-hour time frame, we can see that right now the price is actually bouncing from that level of support that I talked about in my last video. Once again, that level of support was sitting at around 177 to 178. And as I also said in my last video, the RSI on the 2-hour time frame entered into oversold territories. And so like what we saw back here, this is telling us that we're most likely going to see at least some sort of bounce or something over the next 1 day or so. And as we can see over the last 1 day, this has played out exactly as expected. But what we saw last time the RSI entered into oversold territories on the 2-hour time frame, once again, that resulted in a short-term bounce before actually dumping back to the downside almost towards that low in the price, the first low. But we actually ended up forming a higher low holding above this ascending line of support right here, which is potentially what is now happening just in the short term. Once again, right now, we're potentially pulling back at the moment after that latest bounce to the upside, but we still have this support to pay attention to, which is currently sitting at around 178 to 179. And I would only start to flip much more bearish again on the price if we start breaking below this low right here, once again at around 177. If we break that level, then I would expect to move down towards around 168 approximately as the next important support. And as for short-term resistance, we have resistance at around $190 and more resistance at around $195 and more resistance at around $203 to $204. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of Solana or any other crypto, check out those links down below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video.